Right. So in the last session, we completed up to receivable activities definition. We created earn discount and around discount receivable activities. Now the rest of setups for receivables are receipt class and method and receipt source, and we have to go through the rule template. Finally, we have to assign the data roles to the user, and we'll submit the LDAP job. Finally, we'll open the periods. Then we can start with the transaction process. Okay. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take you through this just to understand what are the roles we have for receivables. Then finally we'll assign those data roles to the user. After completing this activity, then we'll proceed with these two setups. The reason is after assigning the roles, sometimes system is taking some more time to synchronize the role assignment to the respective user. Okay, for that reason what I'm going to do is first we'll complete these these three activities, then we'll continue with these two setups. Meantime, system will get ready with the role synchronization updates. Let's see these setups first. Okay, first we'll go to the role template for the receivables application. What role template we have within that? What are the seeded roles we have? We'll go through that. Okay, fine. So to know that what roles we have in the specific role template, we have to navigate to APM. Right. Just click on user, then select task called as setup for maintenance, and search for the task called as manage duties. Click on search, then click on task called as manage duties. Here set scope you can select as a role templates. Let's search for receivables. Okay, the first one, see here, just place the cursor on the role template. You can see the exact name, receivables template for business functions, billing and revenue management and customer payments. Okay, this is the template we require. So select this template, click on the folder option to open the template. And go to external roles. Fine, these are the 6 roles which we see as a seeded. Accounts receivables manager, accounts receivable specialist, billing manager, billing specialist, revenue manager, okay, and the revenue analyst. These are the 6 roles we have. Now based on the BU definition, system will create the data roles. Okay, we'll go and assign those data roles to the user. To assign the data roles to user, we have to navigate to IDM, right? So for that we have a task called as manage job roles. Just click on administration. The username is Fusion. Just click on the display name. Go to roles. Click on assign. Let's search for receivables. Search with our business unit name. Fusion US business unit. So accounts receivable manager, Fusion US business unit, and specialist, accounts receivable specialist, Fusion US business unit. Assign these two roles. And we have billing and revenue based roles also. We'll go and assign.
Lakshman, one basic question.
Yep.
Were these roles created as soon as we completed the primary ledger definition?
Sorry.
When were these roles created with our business unit? Like, were they created as soon as we completed our primary ledger?
No. See, primary ledger, how this is related. Primary ledger is different. And yeah, sir. Yeah, tell me, Venkat.
Yeah. You can continue. Yeah.
Yeah, fine. See, when you complete the primary ledger, data rows will be created for primary ledger. The moment you complete the, what I can say this, BU definition, system will create the data rows for BU. Now the data rows which you are assigning, which are specific to BU, that means based on the BU definition, system will create it. When you create the primary ledger, creation in the sense once you submit the primary ledger definition, okay, then based on that, system will create the data roles which are specific to GL. Okay, so that is the point here. So say Fusion US business unit.
Lakshman,
Yep.
the point is actually when these roles got created, at what point it got triggered to create these roles for the AR?
See,
I think that's the, yeah.
yep. So we created business unit, right?
Yes.
So after creating the business unit, we selected business unit business functions. So based on that business unit business function selection, system will create the data roles. Okay, for our business unit business functions, we selected billing, revenue, as well as customer payments, right? The functions we selected, based on the function selection, system will create these roles.
Thank you, Lakshman.
Clear? Yep. Fine. So just assign this revenue related roles to the user. The other two roles we have related to billing. The first two roles we have to assign. Just click on add. The third one is project billing related role. Then we assign. Now we'll go and submit LDAP job. Schedule process.
Lakshman,
Yep.
Amrindra here. See, I just went the same window navigator to submit that LDAP job and all, but that more option and all, if we scroll down, it's going that window.
In that case, you just minimize this here.
Okay.
That's it.
Okay.
Yep.
Thank you.
Yep. So search for LDAP, submit. Say okay. Okay, we know it will take some time. In the meantime, we'll continue with other setups. Okay, just we gone through the role template and we assign the data rows to user and we submitted LDAP. Now we'll complete these two setups. Okay, first we have to create the receipt class and the methods. Just navigate to implementation project, setup and maintenance. Just give me 1 second. There is some noise. 1 second, please. I'm sorry. Fine. So go to implementation projects, then you can just open the project, search for receipt classes and methods. Okay, this is the task name. Click on that. Okay, anyway, just click on, go to task icon. Click on create. Just give the receipt class name as, say, Fusion Manual. So we are going to create receipts through manual process only. Remittance method is we want to set to standard. Okay, and here you can give the receipt method. Just place cursor here, the field will open. You can give the name. I'll say receipt method as a Fusion check. The same name I want to take as a printer name, or else I can edit it, let it display as a check. And just assign remittance bank account details. Just select your business unit. Fusion corporate account. And here we have to provide receipt confirmation remittance accounts. But now that instead of going and selecting the relevant accounts, I'm just completing the setup by providing some same cash account combination. Okay, we know like the relevant accounts we have to select, but just now to complete the setup, I'm just filling with the same account. Here you can select the two receivable activities which we created before this setup. Okay, so Fusion earn discount, Fusion earn discount. Say save and complete. Say save and close. Done. So receipt class we created. Now we'll create the receipt source, which is required for batch receipts creation. So here we have a task called as manage receipt sources. Click on go. Click on create. Select your business unit. Give the name as Fusion Manual Receipt Source. If you want to default, when you select this receipt source, if you want to default receipt class, method and account, you can select here as a default. So our receipt class name is Fusion Manual. Receipt method is Fusion Check. Bank account details are Fusion Corporate Account. And how you want to generate the batch numbering. Okay, it's a manual. Okay. Then say save and close. You don't see much difference compared to EVS, these definitions. Same as it is we are doing. Completed. Okay, these setups also we completed. Now we'll go to open the receivables periods. So before we try to do the task, we'll just sign out or sign in. So I think somebody was asking earlier what is the exact triggering point to generate the data roles. Basically the triggering point will be BU definition only. The moment you create the business unit, system will be triggering to create the data roles. Which data role system will create in the sense which roles are specific to BU. For all the BU specific roles, the system will create the data roles. And when you talk about business unit business functions, those anytime you can enable and disable based on that system is not going to take the action. Okay, so actual triggering point is between that business unit definition and the business unit business functions. The actual triggering point would be the BU definition only. Okay, you can take that is the actual point. Okay, the BU definition will become trigger point to create the roles. When you are doing the setups, first when you create the BU, it will create the data roles for everything. It will create the data roles for payables related data roles, receivables related data roles, purchasing related data roles, and say receivables related data roles, and the project costing, project billing. So what are the modules which are specific to BU? For all the modules, it will create the data roles. Okay, BU definition will be trigger point to generate the data roles in the system. Okay, so based on the business unit business functions, you can have a privileges to do the setups related to specific business functions. That is to control the setups, but role definition will be done based on the BU definition only. Okay, fine. So now we'll go on to open the periods. So go to navigator. Here you should find receivables. Here we have a receivables. So system added these all tasks under receivables because of the roles which you assign. Now to open the periods, go to accounts receivables. Sorry, accounts receivable task. From this task we can open the receivables periods. Click on this accounts receivable task. Hope this is ready now. Yep, it's connecting to receivables. Fine. Okay, now go to task panel. Okay, here we have a task called as manage accounting periods. Okay, click on manage accounting periods. So this is our ledger. Okay, so what you can do is click on that ledger. So asking first period as per our accounting calendar, first period is Jan 2016. Select and say OK. Say yes. Just click on refresh. Okay, you can see the period Jan is open. Now we can go with the target period. So go to actions and say open target period. The target period is December 16. Say open. Say yes. Just refresh to see the update. Okay, now we can see December period status is open. Now you can just click on done to come out of this form. Okay, done. So we complete all the setups. Now we'll see the invoice transaction creation. Okay, and one more point here which is a mandatory. Okay, see here we created reference data set for our business unit, for our specific BU specific reference data set we created to manage the customer sites. Okay, the same reference data set you have to assign to BU. Okay, you have to assign to BU. If you don't assign to BU, when you are going to create the transactions, you cannot find the customer bill to location. Okay, you can select the customer and you can select the ship to location for transaction creation. We know bill to is mandatory when you are creating the transaction. You don't find customer bill to location until unless you assign the customer site level what are the reference data set you selected. That if you don't assign to or BU level, then you cannot create the transaction. So just go to that set assignments. So we know how to assign business. We created one reference data set for payment terms. That payment terms related reference data set we assign to BU. The same process we have to follow to assign this reference data set to RBU. From here also you can do it. It's not mandatory how to do from project. Say set assignments. Reference data set assignments. Okay. Manage business unit set assignment. Okay, better you do from the project because this will be mapped with the project, right? So that's the reason error we are getting. So just go with the project only because within the project already that scope already selected, right? So do from our project. Sorry. Business unit set assignments. Business unit set assignment. Just click on this task. Select your business unit. Select. Just save and close. So now here we have a customer account site. Here as a mandatory we have to assign what are the reference data set we created for customer site. If you don't override, if you don't change this, you cannot create the transaction. So here search for Fusion. So this is the one we created. Fusion US business unit customer site. Select. Say OK. Okay. It's completed. Now we'll see how to create the transaction. Okay, say create transaction. Here, let's take the navigation. Go to navigator. Under receivables, we have a task called as billing. Click on billing task. It will take us to transaction workbench. Still this function is not ready. I'll do one thing. Navigate to this from there. I'll try. So just now it was working, but now no. Let me sign out and sign in.
Lakshman, one question.
Yeah, please.
Like when we were defining the customer, we did not do anything on the tax tab. Will we be coming back to the transactions with to verify with the taxes once we define the Fusion tax?
Yeah, we'll be testing in payables or receivables. We'll do that.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. Fine. Here. Say billing. So redirecting to home page. See, earlier it was working. We were able to open the periods. Now again it is behaving in this way. So it's not working. Let's wait for some time.
Lakshman, one more question.
Please.
So with the cloud, like if it is on-premise and until like R12, if there is an issue, the whole server is another domain, and we can just go back and verify what's going on if something is not working. So for everything, we need to go back to Oracle support and.
Yeah, for anything, because we are not going to have any technical team to support the server or whatever the issues will be coming up. Only just will be using just will be taking the subscription and will start using. If any issues related to anything, some technical issues or some patch related, all can be handled by Oracle only.
Okay.
You just will take the subscription to use it. Use in the sense, yes, as per a requirement you can configure and you can use. That's it. No. I'll try with something else and I'll come back to this. What I'll do is I'll open the invoice workbench. From here I'll try to open the transaction workbench. Let's see how it will behave. No. Okay, it needs some time. Okay, let's take a 10 minutes break and we'll continue. Okay, fine. So still if you try from here, the same issue we can see. Billing. See, the just meantime I verified it's not working in this browser. I tried with the Mozilla. It's fine in the Mozilla. So better when you are just accessing this Fusion environment and all, better you can use Mozilla. So see here from Mozilla, if you try the same, it is opening the transaction workbench. Just go to billing. Now we can say issue with the browser. But sometimes even whatever the browser use, it takes some time to update the roles. But now clearly we can understand issue with the browser only. Okay, so no more. I'm going to continue with that. Okay, just even not only this, when you're setting the approvals, we'll have a nodes. When you select the node to activate or deactivate, if you are doing that activity from Mozilla, then only it will work. Just we have experience when you are trying with the Chrome, it is not working. So just try whatever, just but you can choose Mozilla as the web browser to access the application to do certain activities. Okay, so now we are in the billing page. Yeah, please.
Hey, Lakshman, I have some stupid question, if you don't mind. Can I ask it?
Please.
Just so with if the client asks me a question, okay, hey, which browser you used it? What is recommended?
Yeah,
What is the best practices? If that question comes in the situation,
the same
what should I recommend?
Mozilla, even EBS also always we recommend Mozilla, right?
Okay.
Yeah, it's very application friendly, we can say. See, now we came across two issues till now in our classes only. Okay, So it's a Mozilla, always Mozilla. You can recommend.
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay. I'll take it. Thank you.
yeah. Thank you. Fine. Just go to Navigator and just select billing task. So now here you can go to the task panel. Say create transaction. So user level we given the business unit specification, right? Through profile option. The same is defaulting. We given at user level. Okay, if that user have access to Fusion US business unit from any application related function, the BU will get defaulted. Okay, the same BU is defaulting. Okay, now we'll select our transaction source. You can type here Fusion invoice. System will default transaction type also. We know that. Now you can select the customer details. Just tab out, it will fetch. Okay, invalid number. What is that invalid number? We'll see that later.
Is the transaction number is mandatory.
No. It will take automatically, right? We did the setup through transaction source.
Default, you started with one. Yeah.
Yeah.
You started with one.
Yep. That's what I am not able to find out what number it is talking. We'll see that. I think it's a ignorable message. We'll see that. Okay, here since we don't have items in our inventory, I'm not going to select anything. So I'll write some description. I'll say some services or anything you can write here. And you can give the quantity. Quantity is 1 and say $25,000. That's all. And we know we already just configured auto accounting. Based on that, system will take debit and credit lines to create accounting entries. Now here you can say complete and review. There should not be an issue. Now system will generate the transaction number. Yep. So that message you no need to consider. Okay, transaction number is one, transaction is status is completed. Okay, so it create a transaction. Now what we'll do is we'll go and create the receipt. We'll create the receipt with the same amount, 25,000 or partial amount. We can apply the receipt on this transaction. Now if you want to incomplete, means if you want to do the changes to the amounts or line information or any other information, you may incomplete and you can do it. Okay, then just click on cancel. Okay, see here we selected option called as the print, right? Print option we selected. Just click on view image. So this is how you can print. Okay, so in case of EBS, we'll be getting some print icon and all, right? We'll get print icon, but here just you have to click on view image. You can see that invoice. Okay, for billing purpose. Then just cancel. That means we are closing here. Cancel means we are closing. We are not canceling the transaction. Okay, done. Now we'll go and create the receipt to apply the receipt on this transaction. Go to Navigator.
Lakshman, one question.
Please.
So in Octable, like for invoice templates, we like to customize, we use XML Publisher.
Yeah, here also same process. Templates we have. I'll show you these all templates for one for check formats and another for this invoice formats. I'll take you through in one session. Okay, instead of
Okay.
stopping and going for the task. Okay, from where we can override and where you can take the logo into that, that I'll be sharing. Okay, so to create the receipt, go to the task called as accounts receivable. Okay, under receivables, select accounts receivables. This task will allow us to create the receipts. Go to task panel, say create receipt. System is defaulting the business unit. Here you can select receipt method. Receipt method we have as a fusion check. Receipt number, nothing but check number. I'm giving some number. And enter receipt amount. Say $25,000 we received. Okay, done. And select customer details. And select site. Now you can say submit and apply manually. The receipt we created. Now to apply the receipt on this transaction, click on add open receivables. Click on this add open receivables tab. And here search for the transactions. Transaction, like you can go with the transaction number, or directly you can give the customer details so that it will filter customer specific transactions. Search, select customer and say OK. Then click on search. So here we have a transaction with the 25,000. So that receipt we are going to apply on this transaction. Select this transaction, then say add. The same way you may add multiple transactions for application. Click on that. Okay, now the receipt status is total amount is applied 25,000. Okay, applied amount is this, amount due is 0. Save it. If you want to perform the accounting for this, yes, we can do it. Actions, post to ledger. It's taking time. Okay, by no issues, meantime we'll discuss other point. Let it complete. I think it's done. Yep, accounting is created. Just cancel it. So that's all about how to create the transaction receipt, which is a very simple process. Transaction we created, and we created receipt also. Now we'll see the credit memo creation process, which is a manual process. To trust this credit memo, what we'll do is to trust this credit memo. We'll take the case here, simple case. I'll create one transaction, say with $10,000. I'll create memo with 3,000, means minus 3,000. That's all. Okay. To test this, first we'll create one transaction with $10,000 and we'll raise the credit memo against that with $3,000. We'll go and see that the process how we can do in the system. First, sorry. Go to transaction workbench, go to navigator, and the receivables select billing. Go to task panel, say create transaction. Select transaction source as Fusion invoice. Give the customer details. Fusion customer. Ignore it. I'll just write as a goods. Quantity 1. Price is say $10,000. Say complete and review so that you can see the number. If you say review, it will remain same the record. Otherwise, it will be closed with the second option. This should be number 2. Transaction number is 2. Fine. If you want to account this transaction from here, you can do that. Okay, and if you want to review the distribution, you can see from here. You must save it. Fine. So this is what receivables and revenue based on auto accounting. Okay. So account it, but we know it's not mandatory to test what we plan now. Just as a action and performing it. Done. Fine. Now just cancel this. We completed the transaction creation. Sorry. Now we'll create the credit memo. So as activities as a task wise, see what we'll do is we'll create the credit transaction and then we'll create the credit memo. The third activity, third task is apply credit memo on transaction. This is a separate task which you have to perform. So now create credit memo. Select transaction class as credit memo. Select transaction source, Fusion credit memo. Let's just select customer details. Ignore this. So correction we are doing. Price is minus 3,000. Say complete and review. Okay, in EPS case we'll create the credit memo. From there we will have some application from the transaction workbench. But here you cannot do in that way. You have to go to the receipt workbench to perform this activity. So now we create a transaction and the credit memo. Now credit memo we have to apply on the transaction. If you want to apply the credit memo on the transaction, let me close this. It's opening every time. Okay, just go to navigator under receivables. Go to receivables. Sorry, accounts receivables, which is the receipt workbench. So go to task panel. Okay, here we have a task called as apply credit memo. Okay, we have a task called as apply credit memo. Select this task. You want to apply which credit memo? Find it first. You don't have many credit memos, only one we have. So I selected business unit. I'm going to select the customer details, so that with the same customer, how many credit memos we have, system will find out. Click on search, you can see the credit memos. Okay, only one credit memo we have. This credit memo we want to apply on the transaction. Select credit memo, then click on apply. Okay, so this is selected credit memo details. Okay, this credit memo we want to apply on which open transaction. Click on add open receivables. Search for that. The transaction number is 1 and select customer. Now just let's try with the transaction number. So this is the transaction number. Select, so add, click on done. So this is the process we have to follow to apply the credit memo. Let's say save and close. The transaction amount is $10,000. We apply credit memo for $3,000. Now the transaction due is $7,000. Okay, done. That's all. Okay, that's all about credit memo creation process. Now, instead of creating the credit memo through manual process, you can directly reduce the open balances from the transaction. The concept called as automatic credit memo. Automatic credit memo, in the sense here I am taking the meaning. You can just go to the, it's nothing but credit transaction. Okay, if we call in EBS as a credit transaction, here also credit transaction, but the credit memo will be created automatically. That is the reason just I'm referring it as a automatic credit memo transaction creation. Okay, let's go and do it. Anyway, now we have a one transaction with the 7,000 outstanding. We'll try to reduce 2 more thousand from the same transaction. Okay. Go to billing. Go to task panel. Here we have a task called as credit transaction. That means without providing the credit memo details, you can create the credit memo directly from the original transaction. So you want to reduce the amount from which transaction? Say transaction number 2. Transaction number 2, the actual original amount is $10,000. 3,000 we reduced. Now again we want to reduce 2,000. So give transaction number and tab out. It will fetch all the details. And here select credit memo type. Okay, now we are going to create, system is going to create the credit memo, so you have to select type as a credit memo only. Selected. See here, you can provide the current balance is 7,000. From this, how much you want to reduce, you can enter the amount, or else how much percentage you want to enter, you can enter here. If not this process right away, you can go with the say, if you say credit entire balances with the 7,000 system will create the credit memo, or else you only specific amount you can enter, or else you can go with the credit percentage, or you can go with the credit lines also to do the same activity. I'm just going with the credit lines. Tax calculation failed at all. Why it is? Just uncheck this. Credit lines. Where all these issues are coming. Okay, fine. Let's try with this only. Just I want to reduce 2,000. I'll go with this. Okay. You are about to redrive line level information match to the transaction. Do you want to continue? Yes. So I just given 2,000. Now what I'll do is I'll say complete and close. The transaction number is going to be 3. It's already created. To create lines also we can do that. You cannot log this record because it's already being deleted. What is this? All these messages. So save it. We'll try to do it once again. Say create transaction. Get create transaction number to tab out. Select type as a Fusion credit memo. So for current balance is 7,000. How much amount do you want to reduce? Say 2,000 from this. Then save it. Yeah, done. Now you can say complete and close. Now system created credit memo with the transaction number 4. Now we can go and find it. So go to manage transactions task. Transaction number is 4. Search. So transaction class is credit memo. Transaction type is Fusion. So it created with a minus 2,000. Okay. This is another way of creating the credit memo. Now we'll see the debit memo. Okay. We know what is the purpose we create the credit memo for any kind of corrections. If you want to reduce the transaction amount with any reason, we can use the credit memo. But in payables, it's a different. In case of purchase returns, we use debit memo. Other than purchase returns, with any reason, if you want to reduce the invoice amounts, we can use the credit memo in payables. But in receivables, for any reason you want to reduce the balances, we use credit memo only. When you talk about debit memo, okay, say for example we create a transaction. Before you go and apply partial receipt, or before you perform any kind of credit memo creation against the transaction, you can incomplete and you can update the balances. Once you apply the partial receipt, or if you perform any debit memo, credit memo action on the open invoice, open transaction, you cannot go and correct the amounts. If at all you want to add some amount to existing transaction, only the option is debit memo. So now we'll go and see that how to create the debit memo. Take simple example. Now the current transaction, the outstanding balance are 5,000. Say you want to actually that should be 6,000. So now there is no option. You cannot go and incomplete the transaction. The reason is already against that credit memo, against that transaction, 2 credit memos are created. Because of that reason, okay, you cannot incomplete that. Let's go and see that. Transaction number 2. So incomplete is disabled. The reason, if the transaction amount is 10,000, then yes, we can go and do it. On this transaction, already you performed two credit memo definitions. Okay, two credit memo definitions. That is the reason you cannot go and incomplete it. Only the option is, if you want to add some amount to this, we have to create the debit memo. Within the debit memo, we have to give this transaction number as a reference number. That's it. That is the option we have. Okay, even if you apply the partial receipt also, system won't allow you to go and incomplete to update the balances amounts. The same as EBS, it's not new here, right? Same logic works in the EBS also. Now we'll see how to create the debit memo transaction. Go to navigator, say billing, say create transaction. Select transaction class as debit memo. Transaction source Fusion debit memo. And select customer. So you want to just add one more 1,000 to the debit existing transaction. So here, so for the purpose of addition, I'm using this one, and I want to add 1,000. That given this line information. Now just go to show more option. Click on show more. Okay, if you go to show more, just go to here again. System is opening. Once you click on show more, it is opening these different tabs. Go to miscellaneous. Not I think yeah, miscellaneous. Go to miscellaneous, and here we have a cross reference. In case of EBS, there is a drop down, right? The existed open invoices will get in the LOB, but here there is no option. Straight away you have to dynamically enter the transaction number here. We know even you enter this number, system is not going to update that actual transaction balances. So there won't be any update on the balances. Only that with the debit memo you can create another transaction like as an invoice transaction, and you can provide the reference. Just to provide the reference, we are creating it. That's it. Okay, just you provide the reference. This debit memo you are creating, okay, to associate these balances with which transaction. Cross reference transaction number is 2. That's all. Then save it. So complete and review. Okay, done. Now we can cancel it. Okay, this is the process to create the debit memo here. In EBS also same process, but there you can find existing transaction numbers from LOB, but here we don't have that option. You have to give the dynamic number. In this case, you may select 2-3 transaction numbers also, since this is dynamic. That's all about debit memo. Now we'll create the transaction with the memo lines. Already we created memo lines. Just we'll create the transaction with the memo lines. See, one option is creating the transaction with the item. The other option generally with the memo lines only, right? So go to the transaction creation page, say create transaction. Transaction sources, Fusion invoice, give customer details, ignore this. So in case of EBS, when you are in the line level, when you are going to enter the transaction, I mean memo lines, there will be one field called as a description. The description, that is a very just a dynamic field, like it allows us to enter some text, or else from LOV you can select the memo line. But here they given the separate field as a memo lines. Anyway, here I'm going to say description as a training. In case of EBS, within the description field you can write the description, or else you can select memo line. But here you can see for memo line separate field we got. So from here we have to select. We created one memo line called as Oracle Fusion Financial Training. Right. So this is a memo line we created. Give quantity 1 and say $1,000. So if you want to derive the revenue account from memo line, in the memo line definition time we can give the revenue account specification and the auto accounting level for the type called as revenue. For the account segment you have to give the derivation from memo lines, right? You know that same process, but here I'm selecting the memo line. Based on that I'm creating the transaction. Okay, that's all. This is simple transaction process. Okay, now we'll see the chargeback transaction creation. Already we discussed what is the purpose of memo lines. To when we provide services to the customer, in that case we can use the memo line. Each and every service you can create as a memo line, and you can create the transaction against the services. Now we'll create the chargeback transaction. So what is the meaning of chargeback transaction? It's very simple. Say a customer has to pay today. Say a customer has to pay 10,000. Due date is today. Customer has to pay 10,000 today. But say customer is paying partial amount. So customer is paying 5,000. Remaining 5,000. Customer is requesting us to postpone the due date. So if you want to postpone the due date for existing transaction for open item, in that case we'll create the chargeback. What system will do is it will close the open item in the current transaction, and it will open the same amount with a new transaction called as chargeback transaction. The simple point here is to postpone the due date for existing transaction open item will create the chargeback transaction. To test this functionality, what we do is, so we'll create one transaction, say with $25,000, and say customer paid 5,000. For that we'll create the receipt with 5,000, and say customer is requesting us to postpone the due date for remaining 20,000. So to postpone the due date, okay, for remaining amount we have to create the chargeback. Create chargeback. Create chargeback transaction with 20,000. And if you want to implement this, first we have to create one receivable activity for chargeback. First we'll create the setup point of view, just only one we have to create. Create receivable activity for chargeback. And when you look at the process wise, to test that, we'll create the transaction with $25,000 and we'll create receipt and we'll apply, and remaining for $20 we'll create the chargeback transaction by giving the new due date. Okay, this is what we are going to test. First we'll create the chargeback receivable activity. To create receivable activity, we have to go to project, setup and maintenance, say implementation projects. Open this project, search for receivables activities. Not receivables, you have to search as a receivables activities. Just click on go to task icon. So as we know, like few receivable activities system will create for every new business unit. We'll go and see any receivable activities there with our view. Let's say fusion. Seems no definition existed. Now just we'll go and create. It should come basically. Let me try 1 second. Why it's not coming? System should create few definitely. Let me search like this. Errors. When I search, it is not just working. You go in this way and click on search. There will be few system defined. Out of that, do you have anything related to that? You can check it. Yeah, we have one predefined, which is nothing but the name is chargeback adjustment. We can use this. Okay, select it. Only we have to add the account. Select and click on edit. From here also directly you can add account. So select as a activity GL account, tax none, and here you can give the chargeback account. Search for chargeback. We have account called as chargeback burden. I'm taking that account. Say OK. And say save and close. Okay, then this is only one setup we have to complete to perform the chargeback, to create the chargeback. Now we'll go with this process. We're done with the setup which is required, and we have to make sure that transaction type is existed for chargeback. Okay, so if you want to just implement chargeback, the first point is we have to create receivable activity for chargeback. The second point is you have to make sure that chargeback transaction receivable transaction type is already existed for chargeback. Anyway, like we completed that setup. Again, we don't need to give as separate in this list. So now we'll create one transaction with $25,000. Go to navigator. Say click on billing. Go to task panel, say create transaction. Fusion invoice. So just I'm writing some test goods, whatever. Quantity is 1 and price is say $25,000. just say complete and review. Anyway, by default system also, because based on the customer profile class, system is taking payment terms as immediate. That means due date is today date. Okay, due date is today. Say customer is paying partial amount. Say customer is paying $5,000. So we have to create receipt for 5,000. So customer is paying 5,000. We'll create receipt for 5,000. Go to task called as accounts receivable. Go to task list. From here say create receipt. Select receipt method. Just give some receipt number. And receipt amount is $5,000. And received from which customer? Here we have first account number, second field is name. We'll go with the name. Or else directly you can search here, it will fetch. Select site. Then say submit and do apply manual. Then go to add open receivables. And just search with the customer name. So this function doesn't work. Now click on search. The transaction number is 6, right? We created with the $25,000. Now select this transaction and click on add and click on done. Let me save it. Now here you can see the transaction amount is 25,000 and 5,000 is applied. Still the amount due is 20,000. So for this 20,000, say customer is requesting us to postpone the due date. For that we have to perform the chargeback. So select this line, go to actions, select create chargeback. Create chargeback. And here select chargeback transaction type, Fusion chargeback. And here provide distribution account. For that, whatever in the receivable activity we give it, just you can provide the same. Okay, then say okay. Then you can say save and close. See here we created chargeback transaction receivable activity called as chargeback. We are not selecting here, but system will cross check. System will verify chargeback is existed, definition is existed or not for this. So that's the reason we created. Otherwise, without that chargeback definition, you cannot complete this. So I'm sorry, very sorry. When you're doing this
You didn't
activity,
select the due
yeah,
date.
yeah, that's what. We have to change the due date. I forgot to do that. See here we have an option to change the due date. Okay, here due date. Okay, So what we are doing, already we completed, but just I'm showing for the just information. Here you can just use amount will be defaulted distribution account. You can select. You may change the due date to 31st. This is how change the due date. Then click on save and close. The new transaction will be created with the new due date. That's all. Anyway, we done that. That's it. So now you can say save and close. Now we can go and find the chargeback transaction created by system. So say manage transactions. Transaction class is chargeback. Click on search, you can find the chargeback transaction. So this is starting number chargeback created with how much amount? 20,000. Here you can see the same. So this is the process of chargeback creation. Okay. So on account receipt. So that means when you get some excess amount from the customer and stuff, or else you have a situation where you have to apply that remaining amount on which transaction. In that case, the amount you can keep on the customer account by using this on account option. So now here what we'll do is, I think we have transaction 2 with 5,000 open amount. Okay, transaction 2 we have 5,000 outstanding. Right, now what we'll do is we'll create the receipt with 7,000. We'll apply 5,000 on the transaction 2. Remaining 2,000 we can keep on the customer account by using on account option. Okay, already we have transaction 2, right? The transaction 2 we created with the 10,000, and we created 2 credit memos, 3,000 and 2,000. Still 5,000 is open amount. We'll create receipt with the 7. 5 will apply on that receipt. Remaining 2 will keep on the customer account. We'll go and test by taking that example. So we'll create the receipt with 7,000. We'll apply 5. Remaining 2 we can keep on the customer account as on account. So go to accounts receivable task. Create receipt with 7,000. Select receipt method. Receipt number. Say submit and apply. Sorry, I didn't enter 7,000. So submit and apply. Select add open receivables. So here it's not required because I'll go with the customer. It's not selected. This too. So this is a transaction number 2. So still amount due is 5,000. So we have a receipt with the 7. We are going to apply 5,000 on this. Add and say done. Okay, still unapplied amount is 2,000. Just saving this. Save it. Now this 2,000, say you want to keep on account. So in that case, same process, select this, go to actions and go to more. Here you have create on account application. How much you want to keep on account, the total, how much is unapplied, the total amount, and say okay. And you can save it. So now you can see this is total applied 5,000, unaccount amount is 2,000. So anytime you want to unapply this, simple select that line and click on unapply application. Again this will be set back to, save it, set back to unapplied amount. You can see here anytime this amount you can apply on another transaction. Say just add open receivables, we'll apply this 2,000 on another transaction. Save it. Add open receivables. Expand this. Give customer details. Click on search. The 2,000 you may apply on this transaction. Now total 7,000 is applied against this transaction. Still 8,000 is due. Save it. Save and close. That's all about on account. Now we'll see the miscellaneous receipt creation. We know like what is the meaning of, in which scenario we'll create the miscellaneous receipt. So if you are getting some miscellaneous revenue from your business, which is not actual business, which is not your actual core business activity, so in that case we'll be creating miscellaneous receipt. So if it is a standard receipt, normally what are the receipt we created, those are standard receipts. When you get the payment from your customer, definitely will have a transaction. You'll create the standard receipt against that amount, and that receipt you can apply on the customer transaction. But in case of miscellaneous receipt, if you get some miscellaneous revenue, miscellaneous cash from some party, say for example you sold some scrap, you got say $10 or $20. In that case, we no need to create to whom you sold scrap and all them. We no need to create them as a customers, and you no need to create transaction and all, because that is not your regular business. So that is the reason simply you can manage that balances in system by recording the miscellaneous receipt. So in case of miscellaneous receipt, there won't be any transaction to apply, we know that. But the amount which you get as a miscellaneous cash, that you have to enter in the system why you are receiving, with the reason you can create one receivable activity that you can apply on that. Okay. So when you talk about miscellaneous receipt, so setup point of view, we have to create the receivable activity. So I create receivable activity for miscellaneous revenue or say miscellaneous cash. You may create the receivable activity with the reason, which reason you are getting the revenue, or else for any reason if it is going for if that is going to be fall into miscellaneous revenue, you can maintain one common activity, everything you can take into that definition. Okay, I'll call it as miscellaneous revenue. and then we'll create the miscellaneous receivable activity for miscellaneous revenue. Then we'll create miscellaneous receipt. That's a simple task. We'll go and do it. First, create receivable activity. Go to implementation project. Okay, just check it if already existed for our BU, which is created by system. You can use it, or else we can create our own. Okay, we don't see anything. This is predefined. Just let's go create our own. So name we can give as miscellaneous revenue, or else if you want to specify the reason, you may write it. To say some scrap sale, you can write it. If you give the name as scrap sale, the relevant account also you have to select here. But we'll go with a very generic name. So say miscellaneous revenue. And here select activity type also as a miscellaneous cash and revenue. Here same you can take. And here activity is set to none. Select here miscellaneous revenue account. Select company, select department, select account. Okay, miscellaneous. I think this is the miscellaneous revenue account. Okay. And say save and close. Now we'll go and create the miscellaneous receipt. Go to navigator, select task called as accounts receivables. Go to task panel, say create receipt. Here select receipt type as miscellaneous. How you received that miscellaneous cash? Through check. And what is the check number? Whatever you received from customer. Or customer in the sense of party, may not be exact customer. Now how much we received? Say $50. Why we received? That we have to specify as a receivable activity. Because as a miscellaneous revenue, or else maybe scrap sale and all, you can give the naming convention, select it. Then you can say save and close. That's it. So that's all about miscellaneous receipt creation. Okay. So in EBS also we have a receipt batch creation. Here also same we have, but that we do through spreadsheet. Now we'll go and create the, you may call it as create receipt through spreadsheet, or it's nothing but creating receipt through spreadsheet is nothing but batch receipts only. Okay, receipt batch creation through spreadsheet. We'll see how to create the receipts through spreadsheet. So in EBS we have a web ADI, but we don't have any scope of using that web ADI for receipts creation. But here we have that function. So go to task panel. Here you can see the task called as create receipts in spreadsheet. Okay, I'll just tell you the simple points related to this. I'll talk about this. What we'll do is first we'll create receipts here and we'll import, means we'll submit. So then to turn those definitions into actual receipts, we have to post the receipts. Once you post the receipts, then only those will you can find as a receipts. Find as a receipts. If you create an import directly, you cannot find those receipts in the receipts section. It's a mandatory you have to post them. That means you'll be, if required, you can verify and you can just validate. That kind of manual action you may do it, but in terms of system, the action which you have to perform is post receipts. Once you post the receipts, then only those will be a kind of actual receipts which generally we create. Okay, this is the process. First we'll create, then we'll import into system from spreadsheet, then we have to post them, then you can find as actual receipts. So here navigation is create receipts in spreadsheet. So to work on this function also, you have to make sure that this FPDI, okay, desktop integrator should be installed. If this is installed in every machine, then only this function will work. Already that we discussed when we were working on payables, same applicable here also. So create receipts in spreadsheet, then say okay. Say connect. Just click on sign in. Ignore this message. This is equal to receipt batch in EBS. Select batch source. We created receipt source, right? So that we can use here only. We created Fusion manual receipt source. Today we created this, right? The same you can select. The batch name you can give anything. Fusion receipt batch. Select receipt method. How you are going to get the payments to check. So just provide your remittance bank. Double click. It will open the search page. From there you can find your bank account details. So Fusion Bank we have select the same. Okay, and here the batch level you can set the controls for count and amount. The same I'm going to do here. Control count. The count I'm going to say, just say I'm going to create 4 receipts. The 4 receipts amount should be 3 lakhs. That's it. Now sequence number, you can give some number. Receipt number, receipt 1. Receipt amount is 2 lakhs. Receipt date is not mandatory. Accounting date you can provide. Accounting date 12th December 27th 16. I'll just change the format. Okay, just select currency also, USD. Anyway, that system will be. Here, provide customer details. Double click. Account number we don't know. We know the customer name. Say okay. Select customer side. Double click. Only one side we have, so system is defaulting. Say okay. So here other information also you can provide if required. So that's all. In this is how you can create a number of receipts. I'm going to create one more, two. I'll say receipt 2. And just copy and paste. USD. I'll copy and paste the name. Number 2. Site number also. Now here you can see that details. We plan to enter 3 lakhs, but we entered 4 lakhs. If this is okay, we can proceed. So that's how we can have a control and say upload. We are going to import. Say okay. Now here you can see the status. Browse and enter successfully. Here this format also system is accepting, but ultimately there within the system it will take only in the 2 digits, right? Here this format also system is accepting. Not an issue. Now what we have to do is we created receipts and we imported. Now we have to post them. Without posting, you cannot find those receipts to apply on any transaction. Now you can go to manage receipts, or else here you will get it. Basically here that should come. So again what I'll do is I'll take the navigation once again to the same page. There you should find it. System should populate here. Yep. See here. You can see this is a batch, right? Batch type is manual. Okay. Status is out of balance because just this is the actual total we kept, and this is the amount we entered, and count and the actual count, this is the amount detail system is giving. Now just click on this batch and it will show that we have a 2 receipts within this. If you want to see the details, you can click on this and it will show as how many receipts we have. These 2 receipts. Okay, that's same details as a batch it's opening. Okay, count and all the details is showing. Just here I'm going to change to, before I'm going to find as it. We are not going to go with the 4,000, so 3 lakhs, 4 lakhs, and count as you entered. I'm just changing to 2 only. That just I'll save it. Directly from here I can post, or else I can do from here. Save it. Now you can see this. Now select this batch. It's not. This post option will get enabled. Basically. What do we sell? Just accounts receivables. I'm going to refresh this. Select it. It's not getting enabled. Basically it should get enabled, but no issues. Just I'll open this from here. I can do it. So there is some issue with that tab and all out there. Click on post. What message we got? on post has been submitted. That's it. So basically here also this should get enabled. Okay, here also that should get enabled. Now we don't see here any batches need to be posted. That you can find in the receipts. Now what you can, again you come to the same, take the same task. Now here you can find those receipts, unapplied receipts. Okay, just expand this. Here you can find it. Click on that. These two receipts are unapplied. So this is how you can process the receipts through batch process by using the spreadsheet. Okay, now you can just open this and you can just go to add open receivables. That's how you can apply on the transactions. That is a standard process. So that's all about this receipt creation through spreadsheets. So that's all for today. In tomorrow's session, we'll just move on these concepts, this reversals and reciprocal customer cross currency. We will work on these concepts. Okay. So any doubts on today's session, please? But you don't see much any difference compared to EBS. So same functionality here also you can see.